All right, let's continue our next panel here. We keep things moving. Let's talk about the future, FSD, robotics, etc. First, I'll bring up our moderator. You know him, you love him. Dr. Know-It-All, come on up here. Proud FSD beta tester, as are many of us.
Supervisor now.
Yes, that's true. Supervisor. My friend, where's Tesla Tino? Is he back? There he is. You're up next, my friend. Get up here. You're part of this panel. You're part of this panel. And one other fellow. Let's bring up Scott Walter as well. We're going to talk about the future. Today's a good day, but the future is brighter. And these guys are going to tell you about why. Enjoy.
All right, thank you, folks. Oh, good. It's working. That's always awesome. All right. So we're happy to be here today. We've got, a timer, and we're directly on time, so that's great. I'm going to have both of you introduce yourselves a little bit as I ask the first question, and we are just going to have a good chat. And pretty shortly after this, we are going to be answering questions, so that'll be great. So I'm going to start with Tesla Tino with Raphael. Two related questions that I think will be a good kind of combination. So you are one of the early beta testers from the early days. And so I'm going to ask you, what impressed you so much about the early days of beta testing versus now? We're going to start with history, and then we'll move to the future. And then you've been driving your Cybertruck all around the country. Like, he's everywhere. So what has it been like not to have full self-driving after you got used to having full self-driving?
I don't have it.
The full self-driving is called your wife?
Yeah, when Nancy drives, it's full self-driving because I'm not at it. So. I guess it's. I thought it was going to be more painful than it actually is.
Okay.
The car is so easy to drive that it's not been. I mean, on this trip to get here, I drove 11,000 miles almost. And it's been all manual, unfortunately, but at the same time, it reminded me how to pay attention to things because full self-driving is quite the eye-opener. It takes care of things that normally you struggle with, and now it's seamless. So I kind of got reminded of what it is to actually drive manually because I've been using it since 2020.
Cool. And what about your first impressions, like when you first got full self-driving versus now, and project us into the future when we don't know. It's possible that Cybertruck might actually have full self-driving as of today. It's literally might be happening now. But so what's the progression over the last few years, like in your sense of full self-driving?
Well, in October 2020, when Tesla was kind enough to let us not only use it and test it, but also show it to the world, it was very different to what it is right now. The user interface was different. The amount of interventions that we had to do were significantly more than now. But I was surprised about one thing, because when you were on regular autopilot, the car would not slow down for speed bumps. And that was like one of the things that I really wanted it to, like, come on, man, it's right there. You're showing it on the screen. And actually, so the night I got it was 3 a.m. in the morning. I heard that we were going to get it. And
Cool.
I actually took my car out at 3 in the morning and I made a video. And the first thing that it did that I noticed was that it actually slowed down for the 2 speed bumps that were outside my community. I was like, oh my gosh, it slowed down for a speed bump. That's great.
How many other people have taken late night full self-driving drives? There's a few. Yeah, we know. You get excited. It's like Christmas time or something. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The funny thing is that just about a month before that, I was asking on the platform on X, back then Twitter, I actually asked if they could make it look at the speed bumps. And Elon actually said, that's a good idea. For sure, it's coming. And
Cool.
then, like a month later, this happened. So I was very, very happy with that.
It's pretty cool how Tesla, even though it's a big company now, still feels a little bit like a small company, which is nice. I like that. All right, so Scott, your turn. We're gonna, if you want to answer anything about full self-driving first, otherwise we're gonna talk Optimus for a second. What's your experience with the full self-drive? You're good? You think it's good? Yeah. I think you're on.
I think I'm on.
Yeah.
And of course, if I'm not on, I'm louder now. The speaker's here. I could not have made the trip. So I drove all the way from Florida, and I would not have made it, even though it was like 12.3.6. Yeah, no doubt about it. I wouldn't even consider doing this drive otherwise.
Right. And I think there were a few people that I've talked to already that drove their Model Y instead of their Cybertruck out here because it was a long drive, and they were like, not going to do it without full self-driving. So it's a pretty critical. If you haven't tried it yet, please get a friend to let you try it because it's really cool. And I don't think there's any way to really understand it until you've actually tried it. Okay, so Scott, what do you think are the unique capabilities of Optimus, and what are the most promising use cases for Tesla Bot in industrial and consumer applications? Let's take a short term and a long term. So first of all, in the next 24 months, like 2 years, and then maybe past 2030.
Okay, so let's roll it back when they first did the announcement, which is what, right, 2021, I think?
Yeah, it was that long ago, yeah.
It was like almost 3 years ago. And at that time, everyone thought, oh, this is crazy, the whole idea of having a humanoid bot. And I already saw that that was going to be something which was going to happen. Now, there were some companies beforehand, some that we've never heard of before, that we now know exist because as we've been following the space, so there's like, Agility, and then there's Sanctuary. Of course, everyone knows about Boston Dynamics. And a lot were working in that space. And I just want to ask everyone in the audience right now a question. Why did the iPhone come out, was it 2008, 2009, and not in 2007?
Answers?
Any answer?
Anyone? I know.
Okay, I mean, John, what
No,
was it?
no, you
It's
answer.
basically a convergence of technologies. The technology was not ready at that time, and suddenly all the pieces came together. It's not because Apple was smarter than everyone. It's because the technology needed to bring it together was available at that time. By 2021, it was very clear to Tesla and the team that there was a convergence of technology that would allow them to create a human bot that would be able to automate all those tasks you cannot automate today. That can only be done with labor. Now, when that happened, a lot of people took notice. As a matter of fact, the competitors of Tesla, including Sanctuary, who's on the record, Jordy Rose, with Herbert and I, and he says, oh, he was so happy when Elon did that because it meant it legitimized the whole space. So they don't see each other as arch rivals. They see themselves as colleagues that they're really thankful they did it. Guess who else took notice when that happened? China. Yep. There's a lot of companies out there. So suddenly it took 30 years to figure out how to get a robot to walk. Then some companies were cracking it in about 18 months and 15 months and then like under a year. And now it seems like there's always, every month, another startup in China that within a couple of months knows how to make the bot walk because of a convergence of technologies. So when this is happening, and I would say the bots can't come soon enough because we have a labor shortage. We have, the demographics are telling us that a lot of people are retiring. There's a lot of job openings. How are we going to fill them? We need to automate. So there really is a need for that. So in the beginning, you're not going to see them folding T-shirts, sorry, Alexandra, wherever you are, for a few years. They're going to be more important. They're going to be needed in the factories. And in the factories, you have a lot of what I call low-hanging fruit. Jobs that are so easy they can be done. As a matter of fact, there's some fruit that's hanging so low, it's basically on the ground rotting. It's very, very easy to do with the Optimus bot that you see today. So some of the advantages that Tesla has is first, they understand the problem they're trying to solve. So they know, okay, what is it we want to do? So they are their own built-in customer. They also know how to build these kind of things. The technology that's in there is not outside of Tesla's wheelhouse. It's very easy. Do you know how many actuators are in your Model 3 or your Model Y or anything like that? I'm not sure what the answer actually is, but more than is in the robot.
Yep.
Yeah.
So think about that.
Yeah.
Think about that. That's
And
important.
there's about 42 actuators in Optimus right now. Tesla knows how to build these things. Some of them are coming from third-party suppliers. Others are building themselves. They know how to build these production lines. The actuators, they just have to get the design. Batteries. I think the robot's going to need batteries, right? Is that going to be a big challenge for Tesla? Do you think they know how to produce them? Yep. Do you know how much the batteries in Optimus cost if I was to buy them on Amazon?
I actually don't. It's 2.3 kilowatts or so, but yeah.
If I was to buy them, about $800.
Right.
But for Tesla, that's going to be like $300 just for the batteries.
Yeah.
The most expensive item in there is the FSD chip, and that's what, about $1,000? So
Yeah.
if you can produce the actuators for $1,000, worst case, big fancy, I mean, you know what an actuator is? Anyone know what an actuator is?
Good,
It's a,
good.
it's
Yeah,
a-
he'll tell us.
It's a fancy word for a motor, okay? So it's a motor with a gear house on it or some sort of transmission and probably an encoder to know that you can control the position. It's just a fancy motor. You've got 42 of them. If it costs $1,000, well, that's $42,000 right there to build this thing, right? But then you have all the other stuff around it. The cameras are cheap. Right. I mean, you've only got half dozen of them. They're maybe $100 a piece, not that much. You get some harnessing. You have some castings that go in there. You're really hard pressed to come up with a couple $1,000s more on top of it. So the actuators are where the cost is. Tesla knows how to do it. They know how to optimize them. They know how to design them. Oh, there's 42 actuators. Do you think there's 42 different types of actuators?
Nope.
No. Who knows the answer? How many are there in Optimus? Family? No. There's actually technically 7. They talk about 6 structural actuators, 3 linear actuators, which means they go straight in and out, and then 3 rotary types of like small, medium, large, and then those that go in the hands. We'll get to the hands in a minute. So that's it. So the idea is they don't need to come up with a production line of 42 different actuators. They only need to do it for a family of 6. And they're specifically designed that you can put them together in any order you want to get what you need for the shoulder. So for instance, the shoulder, you've got 3 degrees of freedom. The shoulder, it goes like this, it goes like this, it goes like that. You need a motor for each degree of freedom or an actuator. Same actuator for each one of those. You just stack them together, whoop, you get a shoulder. Same thing they're doing down here and everywhere else. So there's a lot of reuse. There's a lot of thought of how do you produce this at scale. So as far as some of the advantages that have, there are a lot of bots out there that can do backflips. But you know what they can't do? Pick something up because they don't have a hand. So you can build a bot that can do backflips and walk really quickly. There are other bots that have a lot of dexterity. You know what they can't do? They can't walk, okay? You need to have the full package. So that's one of the things that's important. Tesla knows how to do production. They know the use case. They know how to design. Those are all the things that become really big for them. And then we'll get to production numbers in a little bit.
Okay. So thoughts about Optimus? Are you as a consumer, are you thinking like as soon as it's available, you're going to pre-order one or?
I'm spending most of my time on the road.
Yeah, but maybe it could drive for you.
Maybe, well, yeah, but that's what the goal with
I know.
FSD is. So I think if it can do the laundry and the dishes, it'll be great.
There we go. Awesome. Or potentially take care of the house back at home or something too, right? Like if you're gone for extended time.
Maybe you mean like a guard?
Yeah, or a gardener or whatever. So,
John, let's talk about that.
Oh, yes, let's talk about what? Yes.
Okay, so when we're looking at the numbers that there, so if everything's expensive, maybe we're talking, the Optimus would be about $50,000 for Tesla just to build one, and then how much they would sell it for. But we've done the bill of materials, and we're convinced that they could build it at some point less than $10,000. And Elon's even on the record for that, and maybe sell it for about 20. Okay, so it's about the price of a car. Okay, so around 20,000, how many of you would buy an Optimus bot for the home?
Good question.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, how many of you could just afford to do that, right?
Right.
Maybe you can, but do you think you'd be able to get a bank loan for that? I mean, it's like, would it be like an automotive loan? How many banks would be willing to do that?
That's a good question.
I
don't know.
It's a good question. It's like, but the same thing is that the Optimus bot you can consider like an appliance in the house, right? So when you build a new house, there's a refrigerator in there, there's a stove, there's air conditioning, all that stuff. Those are appliances that get rolled right into your mortgage. So here's the question. In the future, do you think it will be required, just like a smoke detector is, to have a humanoid bot in your house? Because what are the advantages of having a humanoid bot in your house besides folding the laundry?
Well, you got security, you got safety if there's a fire or something and might put it out at 3 a.m.
How many of you recock your windows every year like you're supposed to? How many of you change the filters on your HVAC systems every 6 months like you're supposed to? Or is that every 3 months?
No, I think it's
see,
3
even
months.
there,
Yeah.
I'm not done. Okay, so just think about it. I am going to give you a loan for a couple $100,000 for your house, and your house does not come with an owner manual. And I can see from your background, you know nothing about maintaining your house. You know how to open the door, and that's about it, and close it. You know nothing about the maintenance of your house. I want to make sure that if a leak starts, it gets caught immediately. It gets repaired immediately. So could you see the benefits of that?
Yeah.
It will be a requirement in the future. It will be like the super for the house.
Right. Or certainly if you're in an apartment building, you could have a couple of them. So, yeah, that would be great.
Yes. How many of you actually rent property?
Oh.
How many of you are
Nobody.
scared of your tenants, even though you need them? Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
That's exactly right. So that's pretty cool. So to flip-flop back and forth a little bit, let's talk about full self-driving. Let's think about, this is about the future. What is the future going to look like in 2030? So the first thing you have to say is, when is Tesla or potentially somebody else going to get the regulatory approval? Just take a guess. To have it in a certain town like San Francisco or Phoenix, and then let's say that happens in 2025. 5 years after that, what does the world look like? So you go first, and then Scott.
Well, I mean, right now in Florida, at least there's a approved regulation that if any company is actually confident enough and can prove that their self-driving vehicle is ready, it's already basically law, right? It would be allowed. So there are some places. Florida is not the only one. I think there's others that have it in place. So whenever Tesla is ready, at least in Florida, I know that it's okay to do it.
And this is something a lot of people, I think, get. They don't understand that the regulatory aspect of this is not going to take as long as people. People are like, oh, it's going to take 3 or 4 years. The deal is that San Francisco already does it. Los Angeles kind of does it. Phoenix does it. Austin is doing it. Florida, the entire state, is really forward thinking. Glenn Cook, shout out to Glenn Cook, who has been part of getting the regulations in place. But these are all places where if you can demonstrate that you can do it today. Yeah. It's just a question of demonstrating. You have to get to that point first.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge that I see is the acceptance, especially if the self-driving car looks too different to the rest of the fleet. There's a lot of people that don't like Tesla and any like new technologies like that, and I can see already. I mean, we're getting a lot of hate as it is right now.
Yes.
And I can only imagine people just trying to block the cars, making them fail. I mean, you saw people burning them on fire in San Francisco not long ago. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges. I think the technology is almost there, right?
Right. Yeah, the burning ones were, I think those were specifically Cruise, right? The ones, yeah. Anyway, so but people, there is that concern that, especially the Cybercab is probably going to look pretty funky, and it's going to be really obvious when it comes out that that's one of them, which means it's a walking billboard like a Cybertruck. But you've had the experience with the Cybertruck that you've had a few people, just a minority, but some people that really get violent about the fact that they dislike it so much.
Oh, yeah.
And that could happen with the Cybercab too, very easily.
Yeah, I got the one finger salute and the roll call and all that good stuff. But I think this is important, right? Don't be afraid of technology, because for every negative person that I've seen throughout my last, like in 3.5 months or 4 months, I put 25,000 miles in my Cybertruck. And for every person that doesn't like it, I think I've seen at least a few hundred that love it, especially like the kids. Like they just go crazy, and the adults like Canada was incredible for me, because everywhere I went, a 15-minute charge turned into an hour. Basically, people were calling their town friends because they posted on Facebook that there was a Cybertruck in Canada and they needed to go see it, and I was swarmed.
That's cool. So what do you think? What's 2030 going to look like is full self-driving going to get solved, and what's 2030 going to look like?
Oh yeah, I think it is. I'm going to look at it from a different perspective. We keep on thinking of this cyber or robotaxis being more in an urban environment. Let's look at it more in a suburban environment where you may have less people who are going to be very vocal about their distaste for it. And I'm going to ask how many of you are like a 3 or 4 car family, and are you because you want to or because you have to? It's out of necessity, isn't it? It's because you'd like to have one car. I'm not going to give up my car. But I will give up many of my cars. And by having something like that, it means instead of becoming a 3-car family, maybe we can become a 2-car family. Or instead of becoming a 2-car family, we become a 1-car family. So it doesn't mean it's going to replace the cars. It means it's going to get rid of the cars that we really don't want to have, because we need them for convenience and a bunch of other things. So I think it's going to change the suburban landscape much bigger. The same way Uber had a huge impact. Where I lived in Michigan, there was like no taxi service around there at all. I mean, it was crazy, the idea that you could go from here to there. And suddenly Uber came and it's like, wow, the possibilities that suddenly opened up. It changed the landscape. The Cybercab will do the exact same thing because the cost will be so cheap. and when it's proven to be reliable. So I think that's one of the major changes we'd see. And just going back to the Cybertruck, I do have a story. When Bert and I, okay, that sounds like a Down Easter joke. Bert from the Michigan
He's right
Owners
there.
Club. Yeah, we took his Cybertruck to Walmart at 9 o'clock one night. And as soon as we got out of it, we could hear, Cybertruck, Cybertruck, Cybertruck. This little boy walking by with his dad, just holding. I was like, he wanted to see it. The dad tried to go into the Walmart and finally relented and turned around and came back. And he just wanted to see it. We let him sit in it, take all kinds of pictures, open the front. He just loved it. And his dad came up and said, you made his day.
And this is actually a meta point, which is that, what's the line? You can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, the younger generation doesn't have these hang-ups about, oh, we don't like this and we don't like. By the way, this is not something that's Tesla specific, but children mostly don't care about getting driver's licenses anymore. They're not really that interested in it. So if us old farts, if we, if we're like, no, you could pry my car from my cold dead hands, the younger, kids who are like 8 or 10 or 15 these days, they could care less, generally speaking, obviously. But I think that's a big deal because that generation will come on. They're going to have grown up with this stuff, very comfortable with it. They'll be okay. They probably won't want a human being driving.
Speaking of which, John,
Yes.
most Tesla owners do not know how to actually use their Teslas.
Very true.
But
Not
there's a
completely.
tent right over there where 2 kids wrote a book about Teslas for kids.
Yes.
And the way you're going to learn how to get the most out of your Tesla is to give that book to your kids. Exactly. It's right there, and they will
It's
teach
such
you.
a good book.
Yes, it's a great book. And I really think the way we teach the parents and the grandparents is to get a book like that in the kids' hands. So that is the owner's manual right now for the Teslas. without a
Because
doubt.
how many people who are over 50 have asked their kids before how to use something on their phone or their computer? Yeah, exactly. So you want to let the kids learn, and then they'll teach you how to do it.
How many
So
of you have gone to a supercharger and then someone has come up that's owned their Tesla for about a year? It's like the first time at a supercharger and they're really scared. It's the first time they've gone on a road trip and you're like, how do you not know that?
You bring a good point that I've seen with FSD. A lot of the people, unfortunately, that are using it on a daily basis are doing a lot of stuff incorrectly, especially when they want to see how far they can push it, because there is a feedback loop that Tesla uses with every disengagement. And I don't know this officially, but I'm pretty sure that when they get negative, like false positive feedback, they will ignore the feedback that you're providing. And if we want
Yes.
to help them,
Yeah.
you have to make sure that you disengage as soon as you know that the car is going to do something wrong.
Exactly.
Safety number one, because the car cannot do anything wrong unless you let it.
Right.
Like, it's not stronger than you.
Yes.
All you need to do is put like a pound of force on the wheel and you will take over. Don't
Yes.
let it go like crazy and see if it does a slalom along the pylons or anything like that. Like, no,
Yes.
don't do it. Disengage as soon as possible, because that's how they know that something was wrong. And now that they're implementing new technology to evaluate those disengagements or
Absolutely.
interventions, then, that's how they can fix
Absolutely.
it, make it better.
How many of you know James Dama? Okay,
look
so
at that. James
I-
is famous.
I asked him that question about the interventions because we're curious, like, can it do this really tricky turn? And we let it do it, and James turned behaving less than excellent. If it's behaving less than excellent, intervene. The intervention can just be an accelerator tap, what I call an ego boost.
Bum.
Okay, just give it the ego boost, or sometimes take over on the wheel if you have to, and that way they will get the signal that there was something wrong about that. So you do not want to encourage bad behavior.
Cool. So I want to make sure, because we've only got less. I see the countdown timer. I want because we're supposed to be talking about the future. We can talk about Neuralink if you want to, about SpaceX. What are we looking at? Like in the next decade, what is the world going to be like because of the Musk companies?
Who wants to see the future tonight?
Ooh.
Okay, there is a strong possibility that, last night SpaceX launched again. So their hiatus is taken over. They should be launching again in a few hours in Florida. And then tonight, right after midnight, Vandenberg.
Look south.
Okay? Now,
Yeah.
if you go to Florida anytime, and if you're there for a week, there's a good chance you could see 2 launches. if you are in Orlando, you can actually see the launches from Orlando. But if you're in Orlando, drive to the Cape. It's only 1 hour.
Just get away
Okay?
from Disney
You can
World.
still see
Get
it
away from Disney World.
I can see it from 150 miles away. This is 48 miles. So if you want, now what you got to do is go to SpaceX.com. They haven't posted the times yet, so we don't know 100% when it's going to be. Or go to SpaceX on X,
Yep.
and they will let you know when the countdown's going to be. And get Google Maps, look at Vandenberg Air Force Base, and then go around there, and it will figure out, oh, I have to look over in that direction. So you know where it's going to go up.
I've been told you can get as close as 4 miles from Vandenberg
Yes,
right
yes.
now.
So if you want
can
to
see-
find a spot, we've also been told by the locals here, you can see it from here. It's like, yeah, it's just right over that mountain range, right over there. We can go ahead and see it. It's just going to be a wonderful sight. You can go ahead and see it, and then you will be hooked. You're always going to want to do it. If you really know what you're doing, you can do one of those timed kind of things where you get a nice time lapse and you can see the arc going up. But for most of you, if you've never seen a launch before, watch it with your eyes. There'll be another opportunity that you can go ahead and film it.
Yeah.
So definitely do that.
So that's the future. Of course,
Right.
we've got
the other
the
thing
Starship
to remember
coming.
is
Starship
that
is
sometimes
coming.
it's actually the past as far as the live stream. The live
Yes,
stream is
yes,
about
yes.
30 seconds behind, okay? So if you're really close, remember when it says 30 seconds, look where it's supposed to be. It'll take 30 seconds to get over the horizon here for you to be able to see it.
Right.
But definitely do that. And why is that important for Tesla?
Why is it important for Tesla? I mean,
Why?
well, there's a lot of reasons. Number
Yeah.
one is that they're developed. Yeah, I mean they've got the Starlink Mini, which Scott brought a prop. Go figure. But we've got a future. Which look at that. That's a phased array antenna. Those things were the size of this building, like back in the not that long ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. They are now shrunk down to the size of an iPad almost. That's crazy. So they're building the future.
The battery is heavier than this.
Yeah, I
than you
mean it's
would need for
crazy.
it. Yeah.
It's absolutely nuts.
I was just gonna say that yesterday I met a young lady. She may be around here. She was one of the designers of one of the Starlink antennas, the
yeah.
one that I have on my
Congratulations.
Cybertruck, and it's incredible the way that it works. We were talking about that earlier, John, right?
yep.
I mean, putting all that technology
Yeah.
in such a small package, especially now that one. I mean,
Do you want to hear a crazy story?
Sure.
So on the drive out here, I met up with the Michigan group around Kingman, and we stayed at a place up on the mountain. And we got all the way up to the top of the mountain, and there was like no 5G. And not only that, they didn't have Wi-Fi. I mean, it was a resort, but without Wi-Fi. And Kelly Sloan was going ballistic
Oh.
because she had a meeting the next morning, and she absolutely needed Wi-Fi. Well, guess what I brought along with me? So we put this up there, and her Teams meeting was crisp and clear. Teams meeting after the crowd.
How many people have used Microsoft
debacle.
Teams?
Okay.
Yeah, you know what we're talking
The
about.
next thing.
then.
Now,
Yeah,
this
yeah,
thing is great because if you've ever seen a Starlink dish, it also comes with a Wi-Fi router. It's built into this, so you don't need a separate Wi-Fi router. It's got a small power brick. As a matter of fact, you can plug this into 12 volt and it works.
And just think, that's what it's like in 2024.
Yeah, yeah.
They've made, in 2028, it might be half that size and
But
have
the
the battery
story
in it.
gets better.
Oh yeah, the story gets
The
better.
Wi-Fi
Excellent.
on this is actually pretty powerful. We've been
yeah.
able to pick it up from several hundred feet away, like 400 to 500 feet. We were driving down the mountain. Ken was in front of me. Bert was behind me.
Yeah.
They were all streaming off of my Mini. Even better, when we got to Nevada, we're going 80 miles an hour, and we decided to do an X video call. Tesla Granny has it out there. We will post this eventually.
Where is she? She's right around here. Yeah.
My phone
There
to
you
the
are.
Wi-Fi, up to the satellite, down to the ground gateway, off into the broader internet, to the X servers, comes back, goes up, comes down to my dish, and my Wi-Fi to Kenneth, who's behind me. And it's working without latency. It's just incredible that you can do that.
yeah.
So imagine in the future the kind of connectivity that Teslas will probably have built in.
So we've got that. We've got giant spaceships coming. We've got Neuralink. We've got, integration to get over the singularity, but more importantly, in the short term, to help people who have lots of problems. You've seen these initial tests. They're just incredible what they're doing at Neuralink. We've not to short shrift the boring company, but traffic sucks. So it's great that they're working on this. And then Tesla is just going gangbusters, not just with cars, but with AI. I think that they're the most impressive AI company in the world. Like, no question that Tesla is more impressive than any of the AI companies because of what they're doing. It's insanely difficult. And then, of course, they're building cars, in addition to all this other stuff. So that's nuts as well. Yes.
I think in the future, what I see big improvement right now that we can actually start feeling it right now with FSD 12.5. I think autonomy is really, really close right now. I think it's a matter of, like, one day people are going to be surprised how much the advance is going to be. That's number one. And number two, when you order your Starlink Mini, use coupon code TESLATINO.
Wait a minute.
Or Scott's.
The referral codes came out last night.
Yeah,
for it,
I haven't
which
got
means
mine yet, but you guys have yours.
If you are thinking of getting one of these minis or any Starlink dish, you will get a free month. And I'll get a free month too. Or Tesla will get a free month.
Yep.
Yes.
Or I will eventually. I don't
Yes.
have my code with me right now. To finish this off, my thought about this in the future is in 2034, we're going to look back on this time like it was like the 1980s before the internet. Remember what it was like when you had to go to the library and look up stuff? It was like, ew. It's like, I got this in my phone now. So that's what it's going to feel like in only 10 years. So I think that'll be good. We are at exactly time. So thank you all for being lovely.
Lift off.
Lift off. Oh no, -1, -2. Thank you all so much for being a great audience. We appreciate it. We're going to be over in the influencer area very shortly. So we'll be over. Oh, wow, there we go. We'll be over there at 4 o'clock and 4:30, so you can come talk to us then if you want to. And you can ask questions. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye.